Today I'm joined by Wandile Zondo, entrepreneur and co-founder of the Soweto-based Thesis Lifestyle. He's also a father, a trail runner, and an urban cyclist. What's an urban cyclist, boss? Welcome.
Welcome, Kojo. How are you, man?
Good, and you?
I'm good, man. An urban cyclist is someone who commutes, is someone who moves around with their bicycle, as opposed to riding for fitness sports. But it's just a matter of moving around, commuting. You know,
So is that how you move around?
In the past, I used to.
In the past, not anymore.
Not anymore with the kids around, but I mean, I still have suppliers that I go to now. They'll be like, hey, we remember you. You used to come here with the bike, with the bag full of material and all of that, because I just used to do it all the time.
What did you want to be when you grew up? If I'd met you 12, 13, 14 years old.
At that time, definitely. Probably, let's say when I was 6, I wanted to be a vet.
Okay.
Yeah, because influence of my father and all of that. But as a teenager, honestly, I just wanted to do something in IT because of the family background. You know, your uncle who's like the one who's kind of broken through the ceiling in the family was in IT, and your following cousins who kind of breaking in. I mean, they are in IT. I mean, even with Thesis, I've got 2 cousins that are partners. Their background is IT. So I wanted to do computer science after I matriculated. And yeah.
What did your parents do?
Proper blue-collar workers. My dad was a machine operator, making tape. That's all I know. That's what he did. But he had a strong, strong passion for greyhound racing. So, of which kind of shaped my life big time. Because with him, I mean, he hardworking man. Don't remember my dad skipping work because he's sick or anything, but also had this passion for greyhounds. And talking about 89 to 90, so take it in consideration that black people didn't have greyhounds. Greyhound racing was foreign. So it happened that he met these Americans in Honeydew that had greyhounds. So greyhound racing still illegal in South Africa. It was never legalized. So it used to happen underground, all around the Free State and all of that farms. So this guy, American family, was like, we're not getting into this thing, you know. I think they were just like, didn't like the energy that the country was in. They were relocating, but they had dogs. And they were like, we're going to sell them to you, but we're going to teach you how to take care of a dog, you know, train it and all of that. So he was taught, but then they had a bloodline that was so good that when my dad went to race, he used to beat these dogs hell out. And it was just like a fragile time because also the country was changing and all of that. But we were this black family that had dogs racing power and power, but they were getting a beating, you know. So even like when I experienced racism, apartheid, that's when I know people now, it's like when they use the K word to them, it's like foreign, you know. Even our dog was told a K1, you know, to that extent, you know. But yeah, so, and also when my dad left, started like hunting because all these guys had farms. So they had sheep, so all the lambs would be killed by jackals. So they would just invite my dad and his friend to come hunt. So also the exposure of the outdoors, you know, when I look back now and say the first 6 years of your life, 7 years of your life, it kind of shaped me, you know, and also the exposure of money, opulence, it's where I saw it. But all these guys with farms, you know, they had cold rooms as their freezer houses, you know, they had all those butcher machine to carts, they had hangers, some had hangers, you know. So that was my exposure. But as a young kid, you always ask yourself, why us? Because we still left those farms, went back to the hood, you know. And yeah, I mean, he proper Zulu guy, so he didn't take any ish from them. I used to see fights, like hectic fights, like they would stand up, fight these guys. And, like from the fact that we were Zulu, his friends were, homies and the country. So I think that kind of shaped who I am till to this day of my life, and my mom also was a blue collar worker, but at some point when my parents divorced when I was, I think, 6 or 7, so I lived in separate households in Soweto. So at that time, because they were blue collar workers, between 93, 94, they both lost their jobs. So that's how, in brief, my parents.
Sure.
But my mom also, what I've learned from my mom, it's, I don't know, it's just like the psychology of money. She's super good with money. It's, if it was one thing that I wish my dad, because my dad, I think, was a passionate guy, a risking guy, had he listened to my mom, I think they were going to make a good team. But I think my dad was too passionate about his stuff and dogs, because my mom even still has that beef. Your father couldn't have medical aid for you, but the kind of medical aid for his Njazak. He was that guy. He loved his dog. And to this day, I can't keep a dog if I'm not going to love it that much. That's also another thing, it's one of those things. You grow up and certain things affect you, but yeah. But
it's interesting that say counterbalance between growing up in the township, but also then being exposed to a different way of living in the wide open spaces, like you're saying. I can imagine how that influences how you look at the world, the seeds that are planted from that.
It's crazy, because these studies, when they say your life is shaped in the first 7 years, I look back of the things that I like. I'm happy when I'm in outdoors. It's like, do whatever. It's, even now, my dream is to unplug out of the city, find a space somewhere there, and it's what I'm chasing, And at one point, I dreamed of having a Land Rover Defender, because one day when we went hunting, the guys were like, Zondo, man, you can't take this boy hunting with you guys. We'll get a Defender and drive with him. I was fascinated by that. This car that just drives off-road and all of that. And, it wasn't now the symbol of fear, because remember when we were young, 89, police used to drive in Defenders, but it was just like, oh, this is a car that can take you to places that normal car can't take you.
Yeah.
And it's been also, I think my life is just simply based around that. I might be rooted in the hood, but I just think I have a worldview, and which has been pushed to how we've even shaped Thesis. Because if you look into it, Thesis is a streetwear brand in every city, major city. There are guys that were young as us trying to express themselves that started a brand. And that's how I wanted to do things as well. Take something that fascinates you or you're passionate about globally and try to plug it in your community and impact your own community. But also a lot happened with Black consciousness. I think because after I matriculated, I wanted to go study computer science. But when I went to my dad to say, where's the money that you saved? Because when he got a job, I was like, you don't need to give me a lot of money because I'm used to the situation I'm in now. Just make sure that when I complete matric, I have money to go study. Yeah. And when I asked him, it's the craziest thing. He was like, I'm getting money. I have other 2 boys now. That's how he even announces to me that he's got other sons outside of me. Like, we need to share the money, but I don't have money. And there was a lot of anger with that, but also being in the hood, I saw people around me, how they turned out, and only a few turned out good, but also that few left the hood. So it's really hard to have people that you can reference as like, to do good, do better. But fortunately enough, I grew up in a religious family. So I think that kind of grounded me, in terms of understanding what's wrong and what's right. So I've always been, all my life studied in the hood, and just based on the fact that my parents couldn't afford to take me outside, even to my high school. My high school is just on the same street as my home, and always late at school. But even that, I was just there, hardworking guy who's just there, top 5. He just does better. He just wants to do better.
What are your best subjects in high school? Curious.
Geography. Okay. And I'll tell you a story about geography. Geography because I was in 12A, grade 12A. So they were like, we need to give you an extra subject so that you do 7 subjects. So you could choose between geography and accounting. But the accounting, I thought like it's going to be too heavy for me in grade 11 and grade 12. So grade 11, June, I was like, ma'am, I need to go to geography. And how I did that, I was like, I scanned the geography book. There was like, they're writing a test. And I made a bet with the teacher. I'm like, if I pass this geography test very well, you allow me to leave accounting. And I feel like, and I just like borrowed study material and I came top of the class. Without even just like, so I did geography and I was pretty much okay in maths and science.
Okay.
Yeah. But in my matric certificate, my top subject is Zulu. Yeah, I love that.
At least.
I love that. Yeah. Zulu, I got an A. Yeah, Zulu and yeah.
How did you enter the fashion space?
I don't know even if I even call it fashion. Yeah, like in a way it was a way of self-expressing. Like I say, after matric I didn't have a voice or anything, and I was fortunate enough. An uncle of mine used to work at Edgar's Eastgate, so he got me a weekend part-time job. When he got me that job, I used to work in Eastgate. So take this, I'm from the hood.
So you're going from Soweto to Eastgate?
Yeah, I've never left the hood, even in high school or anything. The only time I left the hood was with my dad or where he worked.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So coming into Joburg, the city, you didn't do that much?
No. The normal stuff I would do with my mom, go hang around the Chupet Park, watch the Impalas, eat your Fontana. I remember that, when Josie was still Josie, we used to, now and then. But also when my parents, before they even divorced, we used to buy groceries in Macro before it bent down, where there's China Mall now. That's how, but that commuting, being exposed to, and I always say my mirror to town was through friends that were studying in town, where you hang around with them and they tell you stories. And that was your mirror. That's how you transported yourself. But then now, mind you, I moved from that to the hood, to Eastgate. And for me, that's just like that interacting with different people, different accents. And Eastgate is the entry. So everyone, every nationality. But there was just this one customer that I engaged with him. I could hear his accent was East European. And I asked him, where are you from? I was from Bulgaria. I was like, oh, okay. And I asked him, why are you doing it? I was, hey, my friend, you need to be smart, eh? Been all over the world, there is no country where you find almost all world's nationalities in one. It's because your country has so many opportunities. Wake up. There's so many opportunities. Then I'm still trying to find myself. I still think I can still do IT and all that, And then a friend of mine, because there's these 3 friends of mine. Actually, 3 grew up together. One was my cousin, and he had a friend. He was studying in the RW FIC. So also that, I like the fact that they were studying that side of town, And then when I engaged with him, they had friends, a group of friends in Dube. But then when I met those guys, my friends were like serious guys, stacked up guy, like, went to IT, had just gotten gigs, call center. But when I found these guys in Dubai, one was Mangaliso, my former business partner. He had just entered Lokshin fashion passion by Lokshin culture.
Okay.
And I was just fascinated by this guy who's just making his clothes, his showcasing, and we became friends. And yeah, that was my entry. And Mangi was also a poet. So with that, he was studying at the Elof Extension campus at Vetstech. Remember, that was the art campus.
Yeah.
So at that time, I'm working in Eastgate. I have pocket money. We're always hanging around in town when he's on. Campuses were not even as hard as they were. We could just walk in, talk to the security. And Fridays, they would leave early, and then all the students will come together. So from then, the people are doing graphic designing and all that. But also in town, it's just this thing of secondhand clothes. Every corner you go to, there's just bales, and would just dig and find some nice brands. And yeah, from there we started buying, we worked at Edgar's. We had 30% access discount.
Yeah.
We never used it. Took our money, and mine had just got in a machine, domestic machine, because he was doing fashion at home. So when we bought clothes, he used to take them, try to change them around. But then I stumbled on cousin of mine, recommends I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
So Rich Dad, Poor Dad just paints a picture of an asset and a liability, and it takes away the thing that, you need a degree to succeed and all of that. And then, so for me, Mang is the guy who's going to get a degree. I'm going to be the guy who counts the numbers. And we had a friend as well who was studying who was working at Edgar's in Westgate. So we were just homies, and that's how we got into this. But also at the same time, during that time, we're just going around town, up and downtown, because at that time you'd start in North, hang out with the Rastafari community, top at the there. But also, it's you're trying to find yourself. I think that community played a very important part. The exposure to books, because Rasta people kind of read a lot, and they would recommend, and it kind of raised that consciousness about who I am as a person and what I wanted to be. And from Rastafari, there was exposure to Black consciousness, and Black consciousness, I write what I like. It kind of just blew my mind up, because when I reference the growing up in Free State, in these farms, seeing people oppressed, but here you were, it's in the 70s, there was this guy who was this radical, how B was always going at Josh Boshoff, it's crazy, how he threw punchlines and oh, okay. And then it comes to say, okay, you listen to people. If you want to hide something from a Black man, you must just put it in a book. So it's you no longer have self-pity. And I read a lot. So when I work at Eastgate, I used to take my tea breaks or lunch breaks and go to CNA, just browse books, so magazines and all of that. Arena, your Dwell magazines, that's where I got exposure. Fashion, design world. In as much as probably I'm into fashion, I think I just love design. I love architecture. And I love it so much. I tend to be, people who do architecture, I tend to want to engage with them because I just think they think differently, And
you still do that? You still read the same way?
I try. Even now, I always say I've never bought a TV in my life. In the space where it's supposed to be a TV, whatever, it's a bookshelf. So I buy books more than anything. It's just even people who go overseas, they're that one, make sure that it doesn't ask you anything because your weight, you know. I always want to buy books, you know. It's just so important. I mean, just got into Noah Haval Harari.
Yeah,
I just 21 lessons, Sapiens and all of that. I just, especially I started, because it's the trilogy, but I started with the last one, the 21 lessons.
Okay, so I've got 21 lessons. That's the one I still need to read. So I started with Sapiens.
Yeah, you went according.
And I went according to the sequence.
I know.
Because I only started, it was about 3 years ago.
Yes. So it's that, you know. So I think even now, I mean, I read a lot, and it's still books that help me to travel a lot, that take my mind to places and spaces I've never been, you know. Even with culture, YFM played a huge important role. SL Magazine, Plant Magazine, One Small Seed. And then after some time, after then there was Blink, of which Blink I thought was just like a golden era. All these amazing people that we looked up to. Here they were, like Pan-African storytelling, you know, and so also that, I think I'm one person that probably wants to sit back and just watch things happen, and it's what I like, especially with the Joburg scene. I think from 2000 or 98, you know, Electric Workshop, I can really reference a lot, you know, from, when I say from north, you just walk from north to the bridge, or with us, we'd go all the way to Fortsburg. It was just like us, you know, when you start from north, you're ending in Horror Cafe. When Horror Cafe, you chill with Louis, you know, and then Osmic, a few years later, they start Monk concept stores, you know, and then there's also Rosebank, YFM is happening there. So that is just like everyone, I think everyone was just trying to find their feet, you know, because you look at most of the people that were there, that's the first generation, because I mean, there was Tony Cherry, Always My Chance, Loction Culture. And for me, we were the next generation. I always saw ourselves as these guys have just started this, and then we are the next generation. But I always felt like there's nothing in the hood.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing in the hood. Everyone leaves, but a lot of these people that are having an impact from the hood. And I just like, I want to start in the hood and build in my community, tell a different story, that we are also a special people that can build their own businesses that are inspired by us, inspired by our daily struggles or our happiness. Yeah, that's what this is trying to do.
I mean, it feels like you came up in a... I've never actually thought about it. I mean, so you came up in around a pivotal time, but like you're saying, you're the next generation. So the Wandis, the Chavis, the Gregs, the Freshers, the Oskidos, all of that was the generation just before you.
The foundation.
And because I'm closer to that generation, I've never actually thought about what it looked like for
us,
for you coming up, because also there's the names that we know, but it also feels there's a whole lot more of us who are not prominent, but we're kind of
guys, we're behind the scenes.
We're part of it, or we're adjacent to it, and it's something that I've had conversations about, but also struggled with sometimes, because you're not recognized, but you are recognized, and you don't know when it's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, I was telling a friend of mine, I assume that it sounds a bit arrogant to say, but I assume that people don't know who I am and what I've done when I meet them. Because too many times when I assumed, like if I'm in a space where it's like, you know, I've done stuff. So I should be, you know,
Just give me.
recognizable,
Yeah.
like within a space. And then people like, they have no clue. So yeah, I always make that, I always make that assumption, but I've never actually looked at it from the your perspective.
No.
And you said something once we took with my brother Gerard. I remember we brought some people from one of the business schools to Thesis as I can't remember what we called it now. Immersion, that's it. And we brought them through. And the thing that stood out was that when you were talking about the history of Thesis, you referenced me and knowing my role in the poetry scene and that sort of stuff. Because I just assumed like we've met a couple of times, but we don't know each other.
No, guys, like, just never take it light. Like, for me, that generation is a generation that, I mean, always say this, South Africa guys only 31 years old. So 96, it's not what, 94, so 94 to 2000, it's just 6 years. So you guys were the first. We didn't have an identity. It was like, oh, so actually you could take a camera and have a career out of it. You know, because I also remember that time of the Vets days. It's when I also got exposed to the after crew. I mean the after crew, I speak about Tapelo Mokoena, the likes of Shaft, the early 2000s, look where they are now, and the generation after them, and also we've seen that part in the whole scene where probably you guys started and you inspired a generation, and there was a time when in TV, when DSTV or anything started Mzansi Magic. Yeah. And we saw guys started building companies in the production sector. Now like people have these production companies. There was an era where guys started having advertising companies. So you see
becoming directors and becoming professionals in a particular space.
As opposed to say I'm working at FCPC or YFM, this broadcasting company. Now I'm like, I've got this company. I'm there, I'm invoicing. I'm starting to build this thing, And I remember the guys at Vision View when Ellie started, with sport broadcasting. They used to do these super sport shows and all of that. And then you look at where Vision View is in terms of sports broadcasting, So I've seen all those seeds that have been planted and that have moved to really industries.
So what stage do you go, okay, this can be a business, as opposed to, you're buying clothes, you're buying secondhand clothes, Melissa's got the machine, and you're just kind of putting stuff together. At what stage do you go, okay, actually, we can build a business around it?
Very early, because I wanted to have something I can hold on to that was meaningful. So to also not have a title as a person, I just matriculated. And so it's like, I've seen the store managers and all of that. So I'm just going to be this guy who must formalize this thing and make it a business. So it was important also for me to start learning about business, in whatever way, in my street way, But yeah, thank God there was Google, information age, 5 rand, 1 hour internet, and you are in town all day. So we'd also spend time at the internet, and when you Google street culture, Supreme was basically one thing that would pop up. And yeah, so Supreme kind of gave a picture what the street culture was. And also the one moment was that when we launched in 2005, we did a street fashion show. So Bianca, remember Bianca Miles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's been on the podcast.
Yeah, so she was there as well back in the day, all young and all of that. But Bianca was like to us, guys, what you are doing, we must check it out. It's street culture, in Berlin and all of that. You must check it out. So even that, when they say it's happening around the world, it kind of like removes the ceiling of you saying you are in the hood. You're in Soweto. This thing is happening globally, and yeah, so like.
And your voice and your narrative is as valid and as valuable.
It's why not? So yeah, so from there, and I've just been, trying hard to craft it and shape it into a business. Till to this day, I think it's 20 years now. Actually, we have done 20 years of building a brand. I think all these years we thought we were building a business, but we are building a brand. Now we are looking forward to the next 20 years of building a business.
What were some of the tough lessons you learned, especially in those early days?
I mean, I think the tough lesson in the early days, honestly speaking, there wasn't much of a responsibility. You just didn't care that much, If you had just produced something new, you were happy. I still have diaries that we used to hang out. Our office was in Candy Square, and we used to contribute $30 to go buy material so that money. I used to do that try to balance those things, But I just, for the fact that I started very early, I think I never really experienced so much of struggles as opposed to having to deal with convincing people that what I was doing, I really believed in it. There was just like, and I remember homies saying I must give them my CV because they are hiring. Stop this thing, So even that, because I believe so much in this, but to have people around you not seeing that it could just even formalize, and you're trying to formalize, and the context of also talking to people that didn't grow up with entrepreneur dads or families that were enterprising. Everyone just knew that they had to go get a job. So that, and for me, when you read a lot of biographies, it's like this start young and this thing just builds on its own and it will compound and it will just get better over time.
And you didn't have a lot of responsibility.
No, and what
you could work with the ebbs and flows because it was just you, right?
Yeah. And I think now, I mean, the struggles are struggles, Kojo, access to capital, opening up markets, trying to learn how to navigate the whole system, You have suppliers that when you come into them, you are a small business. But over years, you've built better relationships with them. They can now give you 30 days payment terms. But I just feel like how I've built a business, I started when I was 21, So I think it's more like I was a baby. I've learned to stand. I've just done my one step. If you were to go to a kid and what was hard about growing up, I don't think they would really point you out.
Yeah.
So I think my entrepreneurship journey, and people think that probably not, but it's like that. I just started when I didn't have anyone to teach me. It's something that I knew that I wanted to lean on, because also when I started Thesis, I just wanted to have a business that would outlast me. So there is no exit strategy that someone would come and say they want to buy us out yet. I knew from the start that it would be up to the next generation of our kids if they want to be part of it or not. But they will have an opportunity to have something like that. That what, was young. That's what I thought. I didn't have an exit strategy that I'd want to build it, sell it one day. So I also knew that with that, it's just a long-term game. And like how you grow from being an infant and its daily steps and all of that, because also from the first year, you started from zero Probably first year you say it's 10,000. If the next year it's 10,500, that's growth.
Yeah.
And that's what kept me going all these years. But probably the difficulty would come now. I mean, it's something that I pick up now, and it's something that we try to navigate and all of that. I think being in the hood and what the hood is perceived as, when you walk into certain rooms, I don't think they look at you as someone who's built a business. I think they first see you as someone from the hood. And it comes with, that might come with people wanting to take advantage of you. Whereas it makes you now to always go into rooms with your guard up.
You're not quite legitimate because you haven't built in the in inverted commas normal mainstream spaces.
Yes. Yeah.
And what I'm thinking, I mean, it's a question that I've always wondered, but to a certain extent, I feel like the answer lies in the fact that, so the question was always, why set up in the township, right? Because one of the stereotypes is that there's no market there. But you are that market. Like, you're from there, so you know better than most who's going to buy what you're offering. And that what you're offering, they can sustain your business for you to have a good business. When you're from the outside, because of those stereotypes and those perceptions, people just assume, why are you going to start? You're only doing it there because you can't get in here. But as you're talking, I mean, it's like, it makes perfect sense. For starting as 21-year-old, 22-year-old, you are the market. Like, you know who's going to buy the product.
And entry to business, the cost of doing business in the hood, if you're not going to have someone who's going to fund you, and you're going to probably fund the business with credit card debt, you need a affordable point of entry. And that's been a blessing also as well for us, being in that space, because it allowed us to mold this brand and build a community for our business, and having a space, for culture to evolve and all of that. It's always having spaces, so I think that also worked to our advantage. That also, I think I was at a very critical time, because the shop was open June 16, 2007, is that Maponya Mall was also open in 2007. So there used to be a lot of newspaper articles that were just raving about township economy. The new cool now township economy.
I remember,
Yeah. And for me, it was just a simple thing. There's 3 million people. If you wake up every day, you just ask for 10% of that, and they spend $100 on you.
Yeah.
It's
good
okay.
Business.
It's okay.
Like, you can live a good life.
It's okay. So the struggle has always been that.
Yeah.
And also, by virtue of being in Soweto, I think was like, if you were to build a story, it would be nice to build it in Soweto because of what it has historically.
And what it represents.
So, and there's never been something, and that's why I launched it June 16, 2007. We 20 years later, it's like we did that. It coincides with this day, the special day, Youth Day. It's this business that stands for young people doing things on their own. So it also was just a way of how do we anchor the story so well. And day in, day out, we're just trying to tell the story. How does it get better? How do we make sure that, but now it's harder because the story, we're older now. The story has to speak to the youth because we've sat back as a business, like, who's buying from us? And then you realize, like, oh, actually, it's the younger version of Wandile as opposed to the older version, and also you are still more conscious of the people that started with the brand, which is our older generation and all of that. but I don't think now they make a majority of our customers.
Yeah,
And with
that
the
becomes
staff,
an interesting. It becomes an interesting
Yes.
balance.
you know, I think also from my side, it's don't wanna hog, man. It's like when I look at the team now at the shop, I don't think there's anyone above 30, and 50% women, percent male, young energy, and yeah. So, and also with that, it's for me, it's also having that business and making sure that you give those young people like pride, give them proper salaries. I know for sure we can compete with a lot of big corporates. I know people that if they were to know how much our staff gets, they would be like, I don't need, because you find that you spend a lot of money on transportation, just coming probably this side, or like me going to Eastgate. Whereas if you were to work at Thesis, you would walk and you'd save a lot of money. So also the business is also created to give our people a sense of pride, that work doesn't mean that you must wake up very early and be traveling, be in a bus or a taxi for 3 hours and come back, you're tired. You can still get a decent job in your community. That when you look and with your counterpart that moves out to the suburb, you probably have it better and you earn better.
Yeah.
So that's also, I think, one of the things. I mean, probably if we're not like that, we'll be driving the M3s and all of that. But honestly speaking, it's really not about the material things. It's about the impact. Because I also knew from day on, there is no poor successful businessman. A successful business means it's sustainable and it's generating profits. So I'm still not a successful businessman yet, but I'm running a sustainable business.
Sure.
Yeah. That really looks promising in terms of growing and all of that.
Is that why also you've built kind of communities around? Because it's a life. It's beyond a clothing brand. Like it's a lifestyle brand. Because you built like a running community and cycling community and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and also how that started. We have to be honest, especially the running thing. If you remember very well, Nike had done 2010 World Cup, and they were moving from the 2010 World Cup to now saying, we're going back to running. And Melo Moropa was looking for someone to cast, and fortunately enough, it was Mpo and Munareng,
Yes.
HNC, and Ningi, and it was also after the Galarian fort had closed down. So they were just looking for someone in the space who was running. And unfortunately enough, I was running. I never stopped running since high school. I just like sense of discipline, just do sports, and they like casted me. And the deal that we had with Ningi and Sunny, I was like, we're not going to pay you, but we'll take care of you. So till to this day, I think that verbal agreement is still in there in a way, because even the other people at the brand, they now and then they still look after me, and plug into the things that we do as a business. But Bramfi Run Crew, I think 2012, 2013 was the first crew. It was Sanel and Ningi. And I was like, now and then I would join them to run. But it also didn't make sense. Why must I leave the hood, come run in town? Come run 10Ks. All the time that I'm commuting, I could have done. But we're like, we've got a shop, and Nike had just done Run Josie after then.
Because I did very painfully, because I'm not a long distance runner. I did the second one.
Oh yeah,
I did the second one, and that was just
crazy.
painful.
No, running is not fun, guys. So yeah, that was then. I think 2 years later, we started Thesis Run Crew. But also Thesis Run Crew was at a nice time in terms of the running culture, because There was Bridge the Gap, Soweto Marathon, and then there was this, because internationally, crews were a new thing. There was Berlin Brave, there was Pata, there was New York guys. So during that time, they were able to bring all these crews into the country. And fortunately enough, the race was happening in Soweto. And it happened that we have known the Pata guys since Street Cred. When Heidi had Street
I remember
Cred.
when the guy came down.
Yeah, when they had Street Cred, God bless Heidi McQueen for exposing the kids to the culture, So that happened. So also that put us on a platform in terms of the global running community. I mean, you look into, when I say Thesis Run Crew probably was the second run crew after Bramfy Runners, you look into the South African landscape, into run crews now, you probably have over maybe 50 or something, And also with the cycling thing, it's just like, it was a new trend globally.
Yeah.
All the guys that owned probably shops, small businesses, they were just getting into this cool thing, commuting to work and all of that. And then we were like, we can also do this. But I think what makes us stick out is that we're doing it in Soweto.
Yeah.
And somehow I think over the years, we've found a way to package these things. The Thesis social jam sessions. I think when we talk of running and cycling, that's like the later phase of community building. The Thesis social jam sessions, actually, that's how we learned how to build a community. Because even how the jam session started, it was a way on how we can market the shop. And the shop used to be a hangout spot for DJs, guys who were just doing graphic designing and all that. But when we were hanging around in, I think, 2008, we were listening to a Giles Peterson podcast where he was talking about a Japanese soil and pimp sessions. They were jamming inside a K-Swiss store in Amsterdam, and we were like, for us, it was like, we're like, I don't know.
We're
here, it's the same.
Everybody's here.
There's PCUC, in your PCUC, they probably need a platform. We can jam here. And in Tembisa, we had a homie, Stan. I don't know if you remember Stan, he was a poet as well. And then Stan is like, hey, I want to plug my boy, Toles Mo. So Toles Mo's second gig outside of where he started, it was at Thesis. And then you've got guys at Gallery on 4th, there was Rumble Jumble, and there people that wanted to perform there, they needed a platform. So, but it just like also taught us consistency because the jam session used to happen every first Sunday of the month. And we only missed December or Jan because we knew that there's no one in town. But then, just for straight up 5 years, we never missed a Sunday. Also, it's just like how you manage a gig. It is just like we learned also how to produce a gig, how you can borrow money, build like consignment stock with suppliers and all of that. I will never forget Bradley. When we had Doomy and wanted to pay, we were going to take money from the gate, and Freddy was laughing at us. I was like, hey, guys, you remind me of my old days. We're taking money from the gate and just trying to pay things, But I think that was like our first shot at building a community because the jam session became really what shaped the brand in terms of relationships with people, where we know today, and everyone else. Because after the jam session, it's when we started interacting a lot with Instant Grass. That also taught us brand relationships, brand building. Also just that exposure to people like Tarisho, Amu, Matebula. Amu Matebula. Amu Matebula.
Very well.
Amu. In terms of brand relationship, Amu just like that exposure to Instant Grass before all the influencer thing, And as I say, just like being at the forefront of being early, think Facebook was 2007. At the shop, we had free access to internet. If you wanted internet, we had access to a DSL line. Because of my information age thing, I was like, internet should be free for people. So homies used to come there, and Facebook is starting out. So when you come in, we like brag on you, hey, no Facebook, no Facebook, hey, it's Facebook, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, from then, I mean, that shop became like, when you look at Fatwani and Rendani, I knew them when they, I think it was Rendani was working at Camper in Mapunya Mall. So as a homie of ours, we used to sell Camper shoes, introduce them to us, and then they were creatives. I mean, they used to do prints for us, design flyers for us. So it was like, the store was like probably a spot and a voice for all the other kids that didn't belong anywhere in the urban area. You know, that didn't have companies or anything, that were not part of agencies or anything, but they found this space in the hood where they could identify with everyone there. And yeah, and it was just always sharing of ideas and all of that. But the back end was that I'm building a business. Yeah.
You talked about how now you have, because a large segment of your market is youth, and now you have people that work for you that are not, nobody's over 30 and stuff. But you're now grown up. You're now an adult with children to raise, and responsibilities in life. What is your role now? What's your relation? How do you see your role in your relationship with the business?
The role currently is really spearhead the vision of the business. Also trying to remove myself from being a chomosono, bus driver, everything in the business. So really trying to deal with the founder syndrome. Be at the top, just like map out the picture of where we're going as a business. So with that comes with learning how to build systems, how to manage things better, making sure that with those systems you trust also. I think it just comes with having to trust first, and also identifying the best talent that really understands the vision and all of that. So I think currently that's where the role is, and just enjoying the journey of being a father, man. Such an amazing thing, space. Like, probably I light up when I talk about that.
Yeah.
Such.
I mean, we were talking about, just before we started, we were talking about the journey of letting go. But you're still relatively early. You still have a couple more years before you're dealing with the stresses that I'm dealing with, which is learning how to hold your tongue sometimes, because they have to go through it to learn the lessons, and that's my lesson now. Like I'm still in the middle of
it. That's where you are now.
Like I'm still in the middle of, okay, do you know what? I'm just going to leave this person. They must figure out as they go. 30 minutes later, in my mind, I'm already like, I need to talk to them about this, that. And being told that I'm nagging.
It's love.
But what's the, because you've also talked about being kind of a single father. What's that journey been like? And what are the sacrifices and the compromises you've had to make both sides? In terms of professional, in terms of personal?
I think one probably is what I must say. It's just like my son kind of saved me from alcoholism. 2018. I think when he was born, 2015 to 2018. Well, 2016, I lost my dad, and I never even was aware. A friend of mine told me recently, was like, actually, when you lost your dad, everything just went. I went hard into the bottle. But I remember looking myself at the mirror, drunk, and I was like, Is this a father that I want to be? Son? Nah, don't want that. Don't want this. And yeah, managed somehow to kick the bottle. And I think that was when everything else, this journey of embracing fatherhood hasn't been easy. And I think what has made it fun is that I've let go of a lot of things just to immerse myself in it. I mean, my daughter was born in 2020 during COVID baby, crazy. But also that was another time, but I think being a father has taught me, sacrifice, true love more than anything. I really know what love is now. And how you sacrifice yourself for everyone, for the benefit of everyone. And I don't know, I mean, I think because also with that character, the addictive character, you tend to do things overboard. I think also how I'm just like channeling everything into my kids. It's like, I mean, I don't have a nanny, I don't have anything. I still clean the house. I still make sure they are ready for school. I still cook for them. I still do homework for them. I drop them to, especially my son, I live with him full time. And my daughter, we kind of co-parent, but it's not that co-parenting weekends. No, in a week there is 3-4 days. So it's that type of co-parenting. So it has taught me also how to care, how to be patient. I mean, they're still young, and you also realize a lot of things that in as much as they are your kids, they are like you, but they are different. And also how you deal with them in a different way. But I think one of my biggest achievements is seeing my kids sitting together and playing and loving each other. Or when they wake up every day, it's just like hug each other and they would chill, tell stories. I think for me, that's the biggest achievement, because it's just, I would just sit there and like the big brother would be a big brother and the sis will play sister, being soft and all of that. I'm like, okay. I also like the kids that I'm raising. I look at them, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in a good space. I think I'm doing a good job. But also, like, what I want to do is actually give them the best tools, face life. I want to be there, show up. And because I want my life back after 1822. I honestly want my life back. And what I mean, when I say I want my life back, is just like I want to go and explore the outdoors more. Follow those dreams of being on the road for a month. Just being in the outdoors. Working from there, but now just based on responsibility, I have to be back. And if I was hippie enough, I'd be homeschooling and be traveling with my kids, honestly speaking, because also I wonder whether I'm happy with the society we live in and the structures that society forces us to say that you have a structure, you are doing well, if those things are really what you want for our kids or for the future of our kids. But then for now, we'll keep it there. But also want to give them those opportunities that they mustn't be afraid to travel, to look at the world as just like anywhere, and it's also the fear that I have with my daughter is because when I look at her, I do not think that when she's older, she'll be around me. I just see someone who's just going to be like, Dad, I just want to go stay somewhere around the world. And I don't know how it will turn out. But for now, I just want to spend a lot of my time with my kids so that when I let them go, I can really say, actually, I'm happy. I gave them enough tool to be self-reliant. That's all I want for my kids, to be self-reliant. But I think I'm too self-reliant to a fault. It's like,
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. Because I also believe that our responsibility is to try and give them the tools, be able to navigate life, because you're not going to be able to determine anything. So just give them the tools, and they'll have ups and they'll have downs. They'll just like we did. But it's like just to have kind of those tools and an element of resilience to be able to handle whatever comes their way. Like you, I even say it to my wife, I'm like, I left a job because I wasn't spending enough time with my family. My wife travels a lot for work. So it's worked out that I prefer to be at home and I work from home because she then, like now she's away for 10 days. Like in our house, if she comes and she says, "Oh, I'm traveling in 2 weeks' time, I'll be away for a week," it's not a thing. It's not a like, "Oh, okay, sure."
yeah, it's okay.
And so the last year I've been joking and saying to them, when my daughter finishes, my daughter just started high school. I'm like, I'm just going to be disappearing. I'll come in one day. When she goes to tertiary, I'm like, I'll come in one day and be like, I'm going on a ayahuasca retreat in Mexico for a month. I will see you guys. Because I'm like, I have given time since my daughter was what? I left a full-time job, 10 years ago, 11 years. And so I've structured my life and I've structured my schedule around the family and around even my work. I've structured it in such a way that I'm not, I don't want to work all the time.
I want to overstretch yourself outside of this.
I want to live. So yeah, no, I'm with you there in terms of.
Yeah.
But your kids are still young. I think the thing that I never got to do as much as I wanted to was travel with my children.
So just last weekend, I was in Clarence with them, camping. Took them both. And also it's like the courage, sometimes I just decide these things, the boy was turning 10 on a Sunday, and like, hey, I know it's okay, wanna do parties and all of that, but I would just need to go camping because the daughter had a school camp, and I was like, we can't do the school camp end of September and then we go camping. Let's all go to your birthday camp and all of that. So it's something that this year already we went camping twice and they love it, So I think I'm also trying to do better when it comes to that, expose them, just spend more time. And then you realize that when you camp with them, actually as still a father, you must actually now do everything. And when I came back, I was tired. I was like setting up camp, having to cook for them, taking them to activities, and also just because you're not in your also comfortable space. So they go through a lot of emotions having to deal with that. But that's what it is. That's what, even when you travel with your homies, there'll be a time where you don't even talk to each other for some time, because everyone is just. So you also realize with your kids, you're going through that. And such an amazing thing. And I hope that we could travel more and do more trips with them. I think it makes our bond better and how we interact with each other better.
I think the benefit is two ways. So there's the relationship and the bond, like you're saying, but it's also reinforcing the idea that they deserve to be in any space they enter, especially considering your journey and the journey you took to recognize the value that you bring to any space, and be able to take that value back into the township, right? So it's not you going, oh, I can now access these spaces. I deserve to be in these spaces. But it's saying the space that I come from deserves to have spaces like this. I deserve to be in that space, but the space I come from deserves to have space like this. And so I am sure, whether consciously or unconsciously, your children are seeing that. So they're seeing the value of the space that they're in. But I also believe that it's important for them to recognize that they have a value when they enter any space, and it doesn't matter where it is. So they should not diminish themselves. And I say that because I fortunately grew up where I was exposed to many different spaces. So that has always been a natural part of who I am, and it was very important for my children to understand that. But also, I saw how it affected people here when I moved here, where I'm with a friend and we're in Rosebank, or we're in Sandton City and walking on Diamond Walk. And they, like, I can see they feel like they don't quite belong. Because that's what oppression really does. It's the stories that it tells you about yourself that you start to believe. And so I think it's important for children to get both of those, to recognize the value of where they come from. So I've taken my children to Maseru, to the house I grew up in, for them to see that, yes, it was for that space I grew up privileged, right? So I grew up with access, but there's still a dirt road going to my home. You know, there's still a cow tethered or sheep tethered outside. And I took my children, I went to Ghana with my children, and we watched fishermen go out rowing the fishing boat. And I'm like, my grandfather did that. So it's important to, I really think it's important, especially for where we are now as a country, as a continent, for our children to understand their roots, but also understand that they belong. Each one of us belongs. And we should not worry about what the other person feels about our interacting with spaces.
So, coming from the hood, it's still a struggle. Even me, that thing today. Like I said, we say a business, you walk into boardrooms. But just apart from, it's easy to just blame it on the corporate. But even to people of your color, it comes from them sometimes, because they've left this space and they've always looked at this space as a space whereby, hey, anything. But then what I've realized is that I'm so well informed because I read and all of that. And then you sit with a lot of people that are on the other side, and then you engage with them on just certain things, and you realize, I'm not about tomorrow. And then you're like, God. So that's what I've realized is that it's who you are as a person. You could be in the posher spaces, whatever, but if you're an empty vessel, you are empty. So that's what I've taken. It's that just make sure that you're well informed, unobuntu, and you remain humble, and it might have been an advantage, but it has allowed me to move into spaces, to just be there so that I can read the room and understand the dynamics of a room, and it's crazy that I'm good at reading the rooms. At one point I would think I was at Saints, or we're doing a birthday celebration at Saints, And as we were walking out with G, I think I turned back. He was like, yeah, these are the owners. Because everyone was fleshy, and there's these guys that are just chilling, chatting nicely. They look like they don't belong there. And I was like, yeah. So all the, you that's also what has taught me, also coming from the hood, because in the hood, wherever your sense of awareness, the diversity, even now, I always say, I think people from Soweto speak a dialect of everything.
Yeah.
There is no proper language in Soweto. Yeah. We speak a dialect. So that on its own, having to really interact with different nationalities, different people, it's for me, it's so important. I mean, for one, my daughter, she speaks English, Flemish, understands Zulu. But now our neighbors are Tsonga. And now she's getting a bit of Tsonga. So for me, it's those kind of things, like it might not be a classroom or anything, but that moment, it will help her somewhere in the world when she's trying to interact with someone from a different country. To say, even now it's easy for me to interact with just different nationalities. I go to a parking lot now and then. My son like, why are you saying bote to this old guy? Like, yeah, I know it's from the DRC and all of that, because I easily engage with people, ask them where they're from and all of that, because I just want to understand how the world works. I don't want to be caught up in my own bubble, and just feel like we shouldn't be caught up as a people that probably we are too worried about coming to the other side of the fence and really forget about making ourselves better people with just basic things as opposed to what we acquire.
Yeah. And understanding that we, in general, have more similarity than we have difference.
Yeah, that's everything. That's like well said. It's why do we find ourselves in a position where we should think that we are better than other people without understanding them better? Especially even in South Africa, the race issue and all of that. It's so much easy if we could sit down, chat more, and understand each other. But I always say this in South African context, it simply will be harder because you still have a minority of people that are still not willing to learn other people's languages to understand them better.
Yeah.
It starts with that, because, you listen to even now, like how they pronounce Mkwanas. It's like, that's the South Africa we come from.
So I had this conversation with my son. A lot. So at school, so both of them, the school had Afrikaans and isiZulu. And then after grade 4, you had to choose. And for them, it would have been easier if they'd gone with Afrikaans. But so growing up in Masiro, at some stage, I remember my high school was like a British school.
Oh, yeah.
Even my primary school. But they were talking about introducing Afrikaans. And my father was one of the most vocal people who was saying no. And this is during apartheid. And
we can see what's happening around the country.
Lesotho was like this little oasis in the middle of
everything
of South Africa. Yeah. And so because of that, for me, my whole thing was no, you'll do isiZulu. There was no Sesotho. I speak Sesotho, so that would have been easier. But there was no Sesotho. So I was like, well, then you're doing isiZulu. And over the years, I've tried to reinforce, especially with my son, because he was the older one and he struggled with it up and down, that when you speak a person's language, it changes the interaction totally. And so when I go into spaces, going to home affairs, and I walk in and I hear them speaking Sesotho, so I immediately switch to Sesotho.
It's a winner.
Like the process moves smoother.
So that's what I'm saying with reading the room.
And I've constantly trying to reinforce that with him. And I mean, like, my isiZulu is not that great. Like, I know phrases.
Yeah.
I mean, I studied in Durban. I've been around people. So I'll understand.
You'll be around people, yeah.
And I'll understand. Like, I'll understand 40%, but it's enough for me to. And so because of that, I go into spaces and people assume that I speak it fluently. So I was in hospital, and the first nurse I met, his father was Mosotho. His name was Debo. And so I saw the name tag. I'm like, oh, Debo, not Debo.
Yeah.
Because Basotho rewriting that H.
He's
like, my father's Mosotho. So I used to speak to him in Sesotho. And then somebody else came in speaking Sesotho. And I greet, because I can greet.
Yeah, greeting. Yeah.
And I can greet and I can ask for things. Yeah. That's all I need. Eventually, one of the nurses, my third day, nurse was helping me. And she was speaking to me in English. And another nurse used to come and change my bedding. Went, Ntate Baffoe speaks all the languages. What are you talking about? Why are you speaking English? She was like, my English airtime has run out. Yeah. Why are you forcing me to speak English? And I'm like, no, I don't. I speak Sesotho. But this woman just assumed that I speak all the languages because I was just switching between. And I'm like, that changes the interaction with human beings because you're basically, Sawubona, I see you. And I'm going to meet you halfway.
And for me, I know we use that word of Ubuntu so much, but for me, that's the essence of Ubuntu. You know, and it's a light I want to shine to my kids right now, the importance of language, especially me being Zulu, you know, a sister born as food, you know, and I'm like, I'm not going to go that route, you know, much as my Zulu, my tongue must roll when I try to
I'm the same as Sesotho because I don't speak it.
No, different languages, different everything. The tongue must roll. It's so important for that, you know. So, I mean, the other stuff, I think we live in a world now where, for us, it's just, if we can just take to our kids through that journey. Because I don't think we can be African and we can't reference that life.
Sure.
You have that life somewhere, you know, only a few that the Joburgers that don't have a rural area, you know. That life where you can take your kids once in Masero, you know, because you get into rooms with people your age and you start talking about simple things like that. Huh? And like, which South Africa are you from? Because for me, it's like, well, that is just the exposure of the whole country. You need to see how South Africa is. South Africa can't just be urban areas.
Yeah.
You know, I recently started falling in love with Northern KZN, Hlabea Lingana area.
Okay.
And you realize that it's not even Zulu people there. It's the Tembe people. You know, the language is totally different from Zulu. Yes, they talk Zulu, but it's not. And then when you start going back to the history, it's like, oh, this is more like where Mozambique, because even the people, like, you know, you can tell, oh, actually, that's how it's like a diversity of South Africa. You know, people like don't really understand the privilege that you have with just staying in this country. With
I went to
the
Toyando.
weather.
I went to Toyando. Benda.
Yes.
And my brother-in-law is from Benda. And been married to my sister for like probably 30 years or something. It's my older sister. Yeah. And I'd never gone. So I'd been there once before, but for something else, and I was there for 2 days. But now I was going for a family funeral. And I remember spending time in Toyando and saying to my older sister, it reminds me of Accra. It's the first place that I visited in South Africa that felt like West Africa. It felt like, because the majority was the majority.
Yes.
Let me put it
yes.
that way.
Yeah.
And I was the lightest person I saw for 3 days. And it was because, interesting enough, it was because of history. In history, in terms of, because it was also a homeland, but it was a different kind of homeland because others didn't go into the space. So you go to Tayanda, and I was telling a friend of mine, oh, I'm going to my brother-in-law's, the family home, which is in this neighborhood. And it's like, oh, that's the old money neighborhood. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, no, because you'll find that they left earlier. Because I also found that people in Joburg or wherever, they all have land at home and they've all have big houses. And I'm like, yeah, like you're saying, the richness of diversity just within the country.
I think we're sleeping on it.
No, absolutely.
Like South Africa, people are sleeping on it. You know, we are saying now, because I was in Mapungubwe earlier on this year.
I went about 3 years ago.
Yeah, you know, like the stuff you learn about in Mapungubwe.
Yeah.
It's like we had great people. And it also speaks to the Venda people history a lot, you know. And I was just saying with friends that we do overlanding, we're like, actually, guys, we must just go to explore Venda now. It's that time. We've done the Wild Coast, we've done the Garden Route. Now it's time to go to Venda, because I also think that Venda people, in terms of, I mean, they are the only people with the South African context and name for gold. You know, everyone else's name is borrowed. So they were original, probably old school traders of gold and all of that. And how they even position themselves now, it just goes back to how the history and all of that. But just to understand that history, why are you so caught up in your history, your own bubble and all of that? But just understanding the whole of South Africa, it's such an amazing country. And also just like that, I always say, it's like how South Africa landscapes changes as you drive.
Yeah.
You know, after the Captain of Capricorn, it's like the Baobab heaven now. It's like there were no Baobabs or anything. And then from there, there's Baobabs. From this side, it's that. It's like also how it changes. You know, I know for sure that I'm close to home when I just after Van Renen, and then they start, those bush shrubs start. And then like, I'm in Natal now. Free State is done. You know, how you even see South Africa like that, the texture of South Africa, you know, and then you go to that, you go to this side and it's like, the Highlanders. You know, I always say Basotho, the Highlanders. I call them that, you know. It's like that.
Yeah, because going to Lesotho and then going to Botswana. Like going to Botswana and going to Gaborone. As a Mosotho, especially kind of when I was still fresh in Joburg from Lesotho. Yes. And it's just too flat. Yeah. Like it disorients me.
Gab, ne? Yeah, Gab is something else, yeah.
Because in Lesotho, you can always see something. There's always landmarks. And then you get to, and when I lived in Germany after high school, and also it was also flat. And it took me a while to get used to just, like, there's a tree here, and that's all I see. I see a tree, and I see sky. Yeah. Because I'm used to tree, and then off in the distance, there's a hill or there's something.
Yeah. So that, and you have to travel to also understand.
I rode a motorcycle. I went for a motorcycle launch in Western Cape. And I remember we rode from Cape Town to Barrydale.
Yes.
And exactly what you're talking about. Like at some stage, I remember being in my helmet. So it's just me, and I'm riding with people. But when you're riding, it's just you in that helmet, right? And we rode through 4 different landscapes. So we did like coming out of the city, along the beach, like with the seagulls here and the sand coming. And then there was the Rocky Mountains. There was more the inland. And then I remember it was these fields. And it was like tall grass. And it was like this. And so you're coming over and there's a breeze blowing and you're seeing this, it's like wheat going as far as the eye can see, and it's just blowing in the wind. And the road is just going up and down off into the distance. And I remember sitting there wanting to tell somebody. Yeah. It's like, if you could see what I see. So like you're saying, I mean, there's so many different landscapes. I mean, I drove to Gqeberha end of last year and kind of driving through the Northern Cape.
So it's that with this country, and I just feel like we could also do better PR about this country. There's so much positive things about this country. In the midst of everything that's happening now, that wash car stuff that's happening, it's okay, but I just love this country. I'm a passionate South African. And I just feel like we should believe more and just tell more good stories of this country, because they are there, and it's just that also how apartheid was created. It's just created these homelands, and I think these homelands just made people to, not open up, because I've seen it in Soweto. We used to have this thing of Zulu section, Sotho section, right? It doesn't exist anymore. We just like a people, because people have just married to each other and all that. And it just doesn't exist. This thing was just created.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with this country. I love it so much, man. In as much as I love also traveling, seeing other places, but I just think this country, and it's what I always say, it's like when I see other countries, it's like, 2010 I went to Switzerland. When I came back, I was like, these politicians are full of jokes, because it's like, things can work well. If people have a will, things can work proper. So why? Because sometimes like people ask you, so you want to have money, you want to be rich. I'm like, guys, in first world countries, people don't want to be rich. Middle class life, it's a good life. It allows you to travel, it allows you a lot of things. That's all I want for us. It's not a matter that. But now for you to afford that life in a South African context, you must be earning part of the 10%. Whereas it's like, I always say, I never want to compare South Africa with Scandinavian, but I mean, I dream of owning a farm. Because to access the outdoors, but if I was in Scandinavia, I don't have to dream of owning a farm, because anywhere I go, I can just put my campsite and camp and explore the land. So those are like, but in South Africa, for you to access the outdoors and all of that, you have to have access to land, and land with our people is not a common factor. So now it just puts you in a position whereby you must think like, I must acquire these things for me to have this access and all of that. So it's really crazy. Can I ask you one thing?
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think about the state of education in South Africa?
What a big question.
Yeah, it's not a big one, Kojo.
No, it is.
Especially as a father, and we've taken kids through a schooling system.
I'll tell you why I think it feels like a big question. Because there's a conversation around the state of education in South Africa specifically, but there's also a conversation about what education looks like in general, right? And so I was saying to my son, we still haven't found, or those supposedly in the know, still haven't found a better way to measure knowledge acquired than an exam at the end of a year, right? Like that you're impacted by memory, working under pressure. Like there's all these things that have nothing to do with whether you understand or not, right? But that's the criteria, that's the measure that's used, right? With them now, they actually structure it differently. So they will be told for what demarcation. So in this exam coming on, this test coming, this is what we're going to cover. So you just need to study within this area.
Parameter.
And I'm like, in my day, you studied everything because you don't know what's going to come. Right? And with my old school mind, it feels weird, right? But maybe that's also a good thing because
direction. Yeah. What's the point?
It's a good thing because it's, if I'm under pressure and I don't remember what I read from what came up in March, should I be penalized? Right? So with education in this country, I mean, things like, I still can't get my head around just know 50% of the stuff. So with certain subjects, you can get less than 50% and still pass. Like logically, it doesn't make sense to me. But at the same time, in the spirit of letting go and making sense of life, I've said to my kids, do the best that you can. And I know what you're capable of. So if you fall short in a certain subject where I know you're capable of better, then you get a lecture. But I also recognize that myself and a lot of the people around me, how our lives have unfolded versus what we studied. So I did a BCom. I majored in economics, marketing, and business administration. I've worked in those spaces, but most of the work that I've done has not been, it doesn't seem directly linked to all of that. So I am constantly learning, right? When I started writing and I've always written, but I was like, okay, I want to do this. I started looking at the craft of writing. And I'm constantly, like I just finished a book called On Writing Well. So I'm constantly reading about writing and constantly trying to figure out how to write better, right? Because I'm having to teach myself as you go. And the reason why I asked you about books is because how I live my life today is to try and improve myself as a human being. I read different books. And I'll pick something from a book and implement it into my life and experiment with it to try and be better, whether it's being productive, whether it's how I sleep, whether it's how I breathe, like what I eat, all of those things. So education, for me, it's like my responsibility was to ensure that my children finish high school, and their responsibility is to finish high school. Beyond that, we then figure it out as we go in terms of what they want to do. So my son makes music and he's interested in sound. So that's probably the area that he'll go into. And I'm not sitting and looking at and going, but you need to get a certain type of profession. And fortunately, because I've been exposed to areas, if somebody says sound design, I already have a sense of the multitude of places that you can operate and function in with those skills. So yeah, like education in this country, education globally is not, I think it still needs tweaking. At the same time, I would prefer my children to get an education in South Africa than to get an education in the US, with my perceptions of what's happening in America. If you look at the US education system where everything is inward looking, right? Where everything is inward looking, I'm like, actually, I would rather this. My children learned about, what's his name? Mansa Musa in school. They've learned about certain elements of African history. They've learned about European history, South African history. I had a British education. I knew more about the history of the Western world than anybody from the Western world. So yeah, that conversation around education is an interesting one, because also if you are going to go to university or to go into school to come out in, your only option is to get a job. Then we're sitting and going, oh, but we need to build. These are the building blocks. But because I don't come from that space, maybe you'll end up getting a job. Then we figure it out as we go. But the building blocks is to give you a foundation for how to learn, how to tackle the world. So that's my longish answer to what I feel.
It was
about
a tough
this.
question, I see from the answer.
That's why I say it's a big question, because it's not I don't have a definitive answer.
Yeah, there's different elements depending where you are and what.
And also if we kept talking about it, we would find other things and kind of go, oh, that works better. So maybe that needs to be, or
from here,
what about that? And then there's education in South Africa. There's education in public schools, and then in private schools, and then the public schools. It's which public schools?
No,
right? And then the township school versus so it's there's lots of layers to it.
No, depending which layer you want to.
Yeah.
No, because I just personally, I think a lot needs to be done there. A lot needs to be done there, especially on this layer of public schools. You know, that's apart from what's the content of the education. You've just raised it, a 50% thing, guys. I mean, you know, it's like where is the drive? Where are we benchmarking the majority of our people? Because I always say, you know, when sometimes I speak, I want to speak from the point of view of the majority of the people. Because can speak 20% is 20%, you know, but the majority of the people is like, where are they? Where are we? Which direction are they pointing to? So if you are saying the majority of the people are benchmarking at less than 50 as a standard, you know, in a long term, when this is compounded, are we going to have people not just now to say that education is prepping you to work, but in just having a drive about life? Are you going to aim high? You know, because I just feel like education is just there to lay a foundation for critical thinking. Yeah. Whereas you have to take a bit of street smart, you know, get those things together, you know, to define what your life is supposed to be. Because it's not only education. You can't just be a street smart, but you're saying you want to teach your kids holistically. But also for me, the education one shouldn't be benchmarked at that low level. And that's where
I think also there's a responsibility from parents, but also there's a conversation around for those children who are in certain spaces like public schools that do not have the benefit or privilege of parents like us who are going to expose our children to more than what's been taught in the classroom, to ensure that those other children can get that access.
Reference as well.
Because their parents, for example, are not necessarily even able to help them with the homework. So if you have a child, they're learning the same thing, but my child has the benefit of me and my understanding and being able to understand what they're studying and help them with what they're studying. That puts them a step further than the kid whose parents don't understand it because they're blue-collar workers who were never exposed. So it's going, okay, how do we create that opportunity for that child? And that goes beyond what's in the books, because it's what you're talking about. It's a way of looking at the world. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of understanding.
No, and I really get what you're saying, especially, and it's what, I mean, I wish my son's parents would allow me to take them camping, because I just would love to take them. You know, he chats about them now and then. I know some of them because I also go fetch him at school, and they would come, hey, Baba Kaluzugo. And then we chat with them, and I'm like, I wish we could just, you know, go camping with you boys, just spend time with them, because I also realize that I always tell my son now and then, I'm like, hey, I know you are privileged. You know, you don't get it. You don't get it for the fact that I sit with you. You know, every day I make you a fresh lunchbox in the morning. You know, I make sure I prep your food in the morning, and because he will come and say, hey, Swanpan has been eating fast food the whole week. I'm like, you see, and it's not like, don't think it's because they have money at home, but probably the mom doesn't have time to prep him a fresh lunchbox. By the time he goes to school, the mom is long left the house. Or it has nothing to do. It's the dynamics, you know. So I'm like, those things are so important. And now when you're saying it, it's could do so much better to our kids, so that can also be taken to the other kids, you know, in one way or the other, you know. And but like I say, you know, it's like it's a crazy time to be alive in South Africa now.
All we can do is the best that we can, man.
Yeah, like every day, you know, must just try and show up, just do what we have to do. But for me, like I still say, my guiding light are my kids for now. We'll see after this phase where life takes me. But for now, I'm enjoying this journey. And I always say, when my kids, I mean 3 kids, Thesis and the other. The first one is Thesis, you know, the biological ones, which is but first, you know, I'm just like driven by that, raising those kids, man.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. Please leave a review and subscribe. Check out the show notes for links to the guest, the podcast, and myself. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.